I left and it was very friendly. When I got onto the plane, I think that Justin probably didn't know that Air Force One has about 20 televisions. He learned that's going to cost a lot of money for the people of Canada.
He made the same mistake as Justin Trudeau. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today we're going to take a look at Mark Carney's remarks after the meeting with Donald Trump. We've also got one of Mark Carney's conflicts of interest coming back to bite him in the butt. Got a bunch of other stuff. Let's jump into this. We got this one here from Red Pill Rick. It says, can we please agree that consumers have been eating the carbon tax for the past 6 years? You take a look on the left side here. This is the price of gas, $1.66 and carbon tax removed. This isn't surprising. What's surprising is $1.66 for gas. I'm used to paying $1.75 up to $2.20 on Vancouver Island. We've also got this one here, age ranges, genders, results from the election. 18 to 29-year-olds, 41% voted for the Liberals. This younger generation has to wake up. They don't know what they voted for. Not surprised here, Pierre Poilievre won the 30 to 44 and 45 to 59 brackets with 42 and 44% versus 38-35. And Mark Carney's winning bracket here, 60 plus 44% versus 38. Surprisingly, the men and women results are pretty close. 43% Poilievre won with versus Mark Carney won with 41% of women. They also broke down the 60 plus by gender, both men and women voting for Mark Carney, 43 and 47%. Here's the big difference. Older women voting for Mark Carney thinking he's going to be the savior of Canada. Newsflash, he's not. Next up, this one coming from Sam Cooper's The Bureau. It says Canada blocked DEA request to investigate massive Toronto car bad stuff seizure for terror links. Exclusive investigation shows U.S. drug officials were stonewalled after linking a historic Toronto opioid seizure to suspected Pakistani and Chinese threat networks. You can't make this stuff up. It's just like they're blocking U.S. investigations at this point. Former U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration official has come forward with explosive allegations that Canadian authorities obstructed a high-level DEA investigation into 42 kilograms of bad stuff. I'm not going to go into the paid article here because that takes away from Sam's livelihood, but just more government corruption. Next up, we've got a major conflict of interest. This is coming from Blacklock's reporter here. It says Army contractor fails audit. Auditors are faulting $175 million military contract for poor service. So there's more details here on Rebel News on this one. Auditors just torched $157 million military relocation contract awarded to Brookfield Global Relocation Services, or BGRS. It was supposed to make life easier for 12,000 soldiers and families who move each year. Instead, errors, delays, inefficiencies, damaged morale, missed deadlines, confusion, wasted taxpayer money. And who was the chair of Brookfield Asset Management, the parent company, when the contract was handed out while this mess unfolded? You know the answer. It's Mark Carney, the same man who runs the country now. You already knew I was going to head over to my trusty chart, so now I've added BGRS to the bottom here. We scroll to the bottom here. We've got Brookfield Global Relocation Services. Mark Carney at the helm. Canadian Armed Forces paid Brookfield $157 million. It's just another insider deal. That's all this was. Now, how did he get away with this? Why was he allowed to do that? Well, they explain this on Rebel News here. Carney was also advising the Liberal Party at the time, not the Prime Minister. That's why. So he wasn't advisor to Trudeau, he's advisor to the Liberal Party. As it says here, just a leader of the Liberal Party who happens to be Prime Minister. Cute little legal trick to skirt conflict of interest laws. So they knew how to tiptoe their way around this. So going down memory lane here, we got this clip of Mark Carney asked about his conflicts of interest. This is the famous Rosemary clip.
The rules say that those assets should be publicly disclosed within 120 days, which means you'll campaign in a coming federal election, most likely within the next 120 days, and are serving as Prime Minister now, with Canadians not being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you sought to avoid.
What possible conflict would you have, Stephanie? I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance.
He's very testy here. He was looking for that mouse once again underneath the podium. What possible conflict? Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's this one, Mark. This guy caught lying again. Mark Carney, a chronic liar.
Confiance.
Are you saying you are not open to any conflict of interest?
Yes.
He spent most of his life in the private sector. There's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. It's very difficult to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary. I mean, you start from a prior of conflict and ill will. I have served in the private sector. I have stood up for Canada. I have left my roles in the private sector at a time of crisis for our country.
That's right. He's here to save us, everyone. Mark Carney gave up all his millions of dollars to come save us. Or did he just do it to inflate his millions of dollars of stock options in Brookfield?
I'm complying with all the rules. Your line of questioning is trying to invent new rules. I'm complying with the rules that Parliament has laid out and the responsibilities of the Ethics Commissioner. And I will continue to comply with those rules.
Clearly, the rules in our system are broken if he's able to get away with this. It goes to talk about more wasted money here. Rivcan, 60 million, McKinsey, 100 million. I think McKinsey's up to 220 million. Eco Green Slush Fund, 750 million. It's endless wasted money, endless conflicts of interest. But don't worry, Mark Carney's complying with the rules. Next up, we got this clip here on Joe Rogan that's really stirring things up. So Joe Rogan invited Pierre Poilievre on the show, and his team, not Pierre himself, but his marketing team, Jenny Byrne, I'm assuming, turned it down. A lot of mixed opinions on here. Marty up north saying big mistake by Pierre. We've got Mario saying he disagrees. The anti-Trump, anti-USA hysteria in Canada would have resulted in a Liberal majority if he went on. I agree with Mario on this one. I don't think it would have helped him. I don't think going on Rogan would have helped him. What would have helped Pierre is if he went and did collaborations with TikTok stars to reach more of the youth and went on podcasts that are not political, did some appearances on some TV shows or other sort of media to reach new people. It seemed to be a double-edged sword. Mark Carney can go down and do American media, but if Poilievre even thinks about anything American, he's getting scrutinized by the liberal boomers.
Kind of reminds me of what happened in Canada with the truckers.
Yes.
I mean, they froze
exactly.
their bank accounts.
Yeah.
All the people who donated to them.
Yeah. People who donated to them got their bank accounts frozen.
How insane.
Insane. And then that same party just won again. Good job, Canada.
Oh, my God. If they didn't have good bear hunting, I would never go there.
I do have to say, I offered to have that Pierre guy come on the podcast.
Really?
He didn't do it. Wouldn't do it. Thought it was too problematic. Or whatever. Jordan told me, I forget what he said, but they were telling him not to do it. Like his advisors were telling him not to do it. Hey, dumbass.
If they can't talk to you.
I think realistically, if he's going to do this podcast, he should do it earlier, not immediately just before the election. Once the whole Trump stuff started swirling and they're trying to paint him as this anti-Canadian, pro-American guy that's Trump Jr., mini Trump, all that kind of stuff, that would have just added more ammo. If we do a comparison, Maxime Bernier went on Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones and some other podcasts, and it didn't do anything. I mean, he went from 800,000 votes in 2021 down to like 190 or 170,000. So after Mark Carney's meeting with Donald Trump, he comes out and does this press event outside the Oval Office. And as this count has accurately labeled it, Mark Carney humiliates Trump after their meeting. Now, before we play this clip, let's take a look down memory lane of what Justin Trudeau did a few years ago to Donald Trump. Now, there are a couple things. This is one of them. Justin Trudeau talking behind Donald Trump's back. He doesn't like this kind of stuff.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his French counterpart have been caught on camera allegedly gossiping about President Donald Trump at a reception at Buckingham Palace.
So Trudeau's saying there he takes a 40-minute press conference off the top, and that's why they're saying Macron is late. Oh, yeah. You just watched his team's jaws drop to the floor.
Now, in a huddle alongside Princess Anne and Boris Johnson, Justin Trudeau and Emmanuel Macron were caught discussing a 40-minute press conference. President Trump was not mentioned by name, but he had held a lengthy press conference with Mr. Macron earlier that day. The leaders are in London for NATO meetings.
So Donald Trump didn't like that.
Have you have video of Prime Minister Trudeau talking about you last night?
Well, he's two-faced. Trudeau, he's a nice guy. I find him to be a very nice guy. But, you know, the truth is that I called him out on the fact that he's not paying 2%, and I guess he's not very happy about it. I mean, you were there, a couple of you were there. And
there's multiple times Justin Trudeau is taking jabs at Donald Trump. Here's the backlash of another one from the G7 summit.
We finished the meeting, really, everybody was happy. And I agreed to sign something. I asked for changes. I demanded changes, and those changes were made. In fact, the picture with Angela Merkel, who I get along with very well, where I'm sitting there like this, that picture was, we're waiting for the document because I wanted to see the final document as changed by the changes that I requested. I left it. It was very friendly. When I got onto the plane, I think that Justin probably didn't know that Air Force One has about 20 televisions. And I see the television, and he's giving a news conference about how he will not be pushed around by the United States. And I say, push him around. We just shook hands. It was very friendly. And no, I have a good relationship with Justin Trudeau. I really did. Other than he had a news conference that he had because he assumed I was in an airplane and I wasn't watching. He learned that's going to cost a lot of money for the people of Canada. He learned you can't do that. You can't do that.
Donald Trump doesn't like people trying to humiliate him, trying to cut him down on the world stage. This is a known fact. So what does Mark Carney do after his event here?
Good afternoon, Prime Minister Tonda McCharles, Toronto Star. I was watching your face through the meeting in the Oval Office, and I wondered what was going through your mind when the President talked about erasing the artificial border and how he criticized your predecessor and Madam Freeland.
Thank you for your question. I'm glad that you couldn't tell what was going through my mind as that was going through.
I'm glad you couldn't tell what was going through my mind. That says a lot. He's openly snubbing Trump. This whole relationship is very bizarre because, as I'm going to show you after this, the White House came up with like a pump-up sizzle reel, like a promotional video of Mark Carney.
Look, with respect to the first point, the president has made known his wish about that issue for some time.
He's made his wish. Mark Carney trying to steal the power back, showing that he's in control, when really, no, Mark, you're not in control. Donald Trump is in control. Their economy is 10 times our size.
I've been careful always to distinguish between wish and reality. I was clear there in the Oval Office, as I've been clear throughout on behalf of Canadians, that this is never going to happen. Canada is not for sale. It never will be for sale. Some things, as I said in the room, some things are never for sale. And he agreed with that. I distinguish between the two. And then with respect to the importance of reestablishing a constructive relationship for negotiations of a partnership, of an economic and security partnership, which is what we were here for, I look forward, not back, and I think we established a good basis today.
There's a lot to take from this. So if these guys aren't in some weird secret deal where Trump helped him get elected, then this is going to piss off Trump. And Trump is going to punish Canada because of it. Now, if they are in some weird secret deal, there's a IOU from Brookfield, then Trump will just brush this off his back. I mean, Carney looked very uncomfortable during this moment here, as Marty says. What a fake and total butt kisser here.
Thank you for your hospitality and above all for your leadership. You're a transformational president, focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and
Just endless butt kissing. Is this Canada strong, or is this just a plan to make America great again at the expense of Canada? And convenient that Mark Carney moved Brookfield to America. With that said, take a look at this posted by the White House's account. It says, it's a great honor to have Prime Minister Mark Carney with us. A few days ago, he won a very big election in Canada, and I think Canada has chosen a very talented person, President Donald J. Trump. I think these guys are in on it. I think there's an IOU for Brookfield. I think this was all planned. I think the Canadian Liberal voters got completely duped, and they still don't know what's going on.
A great honor to have Prime Minister Mark Carney with us. A few days ago, he won a very big election in Canada, and I think Canada chose a very talented person, a very good person.
Thank you for your hospitality and above all for your leadership. You're a transformational president, and I've been elected to transform Canada with a similar focus on the economy, securing our borders. And the history of Canada and the U.S. is we're stronger when we work together, and there's many opportunities to work together, and I look forward to finding those areas of mutual cooperation.
I don't see this video coming out for Keir Starmer or Zelensky or anyone else. Macron, as Brittany says here, this is pure propaganda, clip to make the meeting seem successful. This feels exactly like Trump celebrating one of his own. Only this time, it's Mark Carney, the Liberal candidate. Canadian Liberal voters have been completely duped by the very strategist they thought they were resisting. Yep, that's what happened here. Carney kissed the ring, elbows down. F off foreign interference. It's one way or the other. Either Mark Carney is about to get an earful in the next couple days from Donald Trump for saying stupid things outside the White House, or maybe it was planned. I think these guys are in on it together. This was a deal to get Mark Carney elected after Brookfield helped Donald Trump. This was the IOU, him paying it forward. Let's see what happens with these tariffs. Are they just going to go back and forth a little bit and then they come to a deal when really this was planned the entire time? We also got this story from CBC. It says conservative candidate says misinformation about Poilievre led to party loss in federal election. I've mentioned this multiple times. This guy's St. John's East conservative candidate, David Brazil, He says a lot of misinformation about the party's leader while knocking on doors during the federal election might have led to the loss. So more specifically, it says a number of times I would ask people to fact check what they thought was the real Pierre Poilievre. They come back and apologize and realize he's a committed individual. Some of that misinformation you heard at the door was Poilievre was against women's rights, against LGBTQS+, against affordable daycare, and against pharmacare. This is what we saw on Facebook. There's Facebook groups spending money, putting out ads, putting out those infographics and spreading it to where all the old ladies hang out on Facebook with all these things about how bad Poilievre is. And it's all slanderous lies. At what point do conservative lawyers get involved and start suing people for damaging reputation? In other news, we've got Donald Trump defunding the CBC. Well, not the CBC, PBS, the equivalent of the CBC in America.
In an executive order signed late Thursday, U.S. President Donald Trump ordered the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to stop distributing federal funding to National Public Radio and the Public Broadcasting Service. Trump has long been critical of both outlets, which are publicly and privately funded, for being biased and leftist. But CPB President and CEO Pat Harrison says Trump does not have the authority to make such a mandate because the organization was created by Congress. Do I need it to? Beyond their
So Trump defunding the mainstream media here, well, we go to the end of this. We can do a comparison to our mainstream media and how much funding is going to it.
It amounts to about $1.60 per person a year, just to put it into context. And the money goes directly to fund the operations of our stations across the country.
That money mostly funds local and rural stations that could fold without those federal dollars.
So in comparison, $1.60, Canadians pay, I believe, around $35 per person for the CBC, and the Liberals want to jack that up to $50 per person. Now, in fair comparison, though, $1.60 per American. America has, 300 million people, so not quite 10 times the population. Even if he said 10 times, it would be equivalent of spending $10 per person versus us spending $35 per person. We have an outrageous amount of our dollars go to the CBC versus what America is spending on PBS.
There's nobody else covering the hospital board or the city meetings or the county meetings. And so without that, the community loses a lot more than just some fantastic programming.
Unfortunately, in Canada, that's not what the CBC spends our money on. They spend it on slandering Pierre Poilievre every single day, $1 million a day. That's roughly about their spend on their political division of CBC. It's amazing that Pierre Poilievre nearly won a minority government, considering there's a constant stream of CBC slander going against him, and yet he's still pulling those numbers. After seeing all that with Donald Trump, the sizzle reel coming out of the White House, either the tariffs just stay on, and this was planned by Donald Trump and Mark Carney. It wasn't planned, and this just happened to happen like this. Yet somehow Donald Trump is a big fan of Mark Carney. Or a third option, this was all planned, and they make a deal soon, and the tariffs go away. Which one is it?